What if everything we've been told about autoimmunity is wrong? What if those mysterious symptoms that seem to come out of nowhere actually have a hidden cause that's been right in front of us all along? I'm Elizabeth Yarnell, and I should have been in a wheelchair by now. At least that's what the neurologist told me in 1999 when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis after waking up blind in one eye just before my 30th birthday. He pointed to a chart showing the inevitable slide into disability and assured me this was my future. I decided to investigate for myself. Welcome to the Inflammation Investigator, the podcast where we uncover the hidden triggers behind chronic inflammation and discover that autoimmune conditions don't have to be a life sentence. They just mean you need to find a new life solution. I'm your host, Elizabeth Yarnell, traditional naturopath, certified food sensitivity therapist, and someone who refuses to accept that being allergic to yourself is the whole story. Together, we're going to dig deep into what conventional medicine often misses: the food sensitivities, parasitic infections, toxins, and environmental triggers that keep your immune system in overdrive. Whether you're dealing with MS, lupus, fibromyalgia, IBS, or any of those mysterious symptoms that have left you visiting doctor after doctor, this investigation is for you. Because here's what I've learned in over 2 decades of detective work. Chronic symptoms of pain, discomfort, or dysfunction always have a trigger behind them. And once we can find it, we can address it. So grab your notebook, put on your detective hat, and let's start investigating. Your body has been trying to tell you something. It's time we finally listened. Welcome to the very first episode of the Inflammation Investigator. I'm your host, Elizabeth Yarnell, and before we dive into uncovering the hidden triggers behind chronic inflammation together, I think you deserve to know how I became an inflammation investigator in the first place. Because here's the thing, I didn't start out as a traditional naturopath or food sensitivity therapist. I was a freelance journalist, which means I was already trained to ask hard questions, dig for answers, and never take the first explanation as the whole truth. Little did I know, those skills would save my life. Let me take you back to a late night in January 1999. I was in my apartment putting the finishing touches on an article about cross-country skiing for the Denver Post. After days of research and interviews, I finally sent what I hoped would be the penultimate draft to my inkjet printer. As I brushed my teeth, I glanced over the printout and noticed 3 places where I wanted to make edits. But I was exhausted, so I set it aside for the morning and went to bed. I should have taken the time. I had no idea that everything in my life was about to change, literally overnight. The next morning, when I set those pages next to my coffee on my sunny kitchen table, I struggled to read the words. It was as if a huge cloud had floated in front of my eyeballs, blotting out text here and there. Words, phrases, entire paragraphs had disappeared from my view. I was confused until I realized the problem wasn't with the pages. The problem was with my eyes. When I closed my right eye and looked just through my left eye, I could see the text in its entirety, though the sentences I'd written the night before seemed entirely unfamiliar. But here's the worst part. I could no longer identify those 3 important edits I'd spotted just hours earlier. How was I going to revise my story before my deadline when I couldn't even tell what needed to be fixed? A few weeks later, I found myself in the office of a famous neurologist, staring at an eye chart. I could read it perfectly with my right eye covered, but when I covered my left eye, I tried to read and tried to read it with my right, all I saw was white. Not the white of the eye chart or the painted wall, but the white that is the absence of everything, like looking at the inside of a cloud. Optic neuritis, inflammation of the optic nerve, a common harbinger of multiple sclerosis. Then the doctor showed me another chart. This one had a line sloping down from the top left corner, indicating no disability, to the lower right corner, showing complete disability over time. He pointed to that lower right corner and assured me, in a robotic manner, that this is where everyone with MS eventually ends up. Riddled with disabilities until their body no longer responds to signals from the brain. I squeezed my eyes shut against the horror of that chart. But, 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 what if I eat a healthy diet and exercise? I asked desperately. The doctor shook his head. No. Diet wouldn't make any difference in the trajectory of my disease, he said. The only option was something called disease-modifying therapy. Not disease-curing therapy. There was no cure, just an attempt to slow down the inevitable. As a freelance journalist, I knew how to research, so I dug into all the DMT options. What I found was shocking. Questionably low efficacy rates, well below 50%, combined with serious side effects, including seizures, blood and liver problems, and even death. Plus, they were incredibly expensive and required needles to administer. I had a lot to cry about during my flight home. But here's where my journalist training kicked in. Always a researcher, I started questioning everything. The medical community told me I had become, quote, allergic to myself, that my T cells, the white blood cells that lead immune responses, had gone rogue and were attacking my own body for no reason. Autoimmune literally means resistant to oneself. But as I dove deeper into the research, that explanation started to feel incomplete. What if those T cells weren't acting irrationally? What if they were actually trying to defend me against threats we simply weren't recognizing? Two pivotal events in 2008 made me wonder if I was onto something. Both involved vomit, disgustingly enough. The first was when my husband projectile vomited across our bedroom, rising from a dead sleep like a scene from The Exorcist. Despite multiple rounds of the pharmaceutical anti-parasitic flagyl over 10 years, he was still battling parasitic infection. The second was a call from my kindergartner school nurse. He had thrown up in the lunch line again. This had been happening for the entire 6 years of his life, and no doctor could explain why. That's when I discovered the world of parasites and food sensitivity. When we addressed both my husband's parasites with a natural herbal cleanse and my son's food sensitivities with an anti-inflammatory diet, everything changed. My husband started running faster times he hadn't seen since his early 20s. My son's mysterious vomiting stopped completely. And me? Well, I realized I felt markedly different after doing the parasite cleanse and adopting a tailored anti-inflammatory diet myself. Even though I was certain I'd cleared my parasites years before and had been eating a healthy diet. I was bouncing through my jazzercise workouts, sleeping better, awakening more rested. The colors of the world appeared more vibrant, as if a veil had lifted. That's when it hit me. What if the T cells weren't going rogue after all? What if they were being triggered by things we hadn't been looking for? Things hiding in plain sight. I went back to the research to see if customized anti-inflammatory diets had been studied for MS. To no one's surprise, this research was scarce. So was research about parasitic infection and MS. The thing about medical studies is they're designed to test single interventions, usually pharmaceutical drugs that can generate big profits. Personalized dietary adjustments don't carry the same commercial interest, unfortunately. So I decided to collect the data myself, beginning with myself as an N of 1 test subject. I started offering the same therapies to everyone who found me, clearing out parasites, following customized anti-inflammatory diets, and supporting complete digestion. I called it the Fight MS with Food project. The data consistently showed something the medical community wasn't seeing. Reducing inflammatory triggers does reduce inflammation. The T cells had been unfairly maligned. That investigation led me to become a traditional naturopath and certified food sensitivity therapist. I wrote an award-winning cookbook that made anti-inflammatory cooking quick and easy, and I even received a patent for this cooking technique. I gave a TEDx talk. I founded the Inflammation Academy, and most importantly, I stayed out of that wheelchair the doctor promised would be my future. But here's what I learned that I want to share with you. Chronic inflammation isn't a life sentence. It just means you need to find a new life solution. Over the next episodes of The Inflammation Investigator, we're going to uncover those hidden triggers together. We'll explore food, chemical, and environmental sensitivities that conventional medicine often misses. We'll dive deep into parasitic infections. The CDC estimates that 7 out of 10 people are carrying hidden parasites. We'll investigate toxins in our environment, the role of gut health, natural pain relief methods, and anti-inflammatory living strategies and therapies that go far beyond what any doctor's office will tell you. I'll share stories from my clinical practice, cases where people were told their chronic symptoms were just stress or all in their head, only to discover specific triggers that, once removed, gave them their lives back. We'll talk about energy healing, functional medicine approaches, the connection between regenerative farming and clean foods, and yes, we'll even explore some biohacking techniques that can help optimize your body's natural healing capacity. But most importantly, I want to empower you to become the detective of your own health, because every symptom is your body trying to communicate with you. Every flare, every ache, every moment of fatigue or brain fog, those aren't random events happening to you. They're information. They're information from your body. And once we learn to decode that information, we can address the real root causes. Are you dealing with multiple sclerosis, lupus, fibromyalgia, IBS, chronic fatigue, or other autoimmune or mysterious symptoms that seem to come out of nowhere? Have you been visiting doctor after doctor, getting test after test, trying drug after drug, searching for something that will finally bring you relief? You're in the right place. This investigation is for you. In our upcoming episodes, you'll hear from other health practitioners who are thinking outside the pharmaceutical box. You'll learn practical strategies you can implement right away. And you'll discover that you're not broken, you're not imagining things, and you're definitely not allergic to yourself. Your body has been trying to tell you something, and it's time we finally listened. Before our next episode, I want you to do something for me. Head over to inflammationinvestigator.com and take my free inflammation quiz. It'll help you start identifying which hidden triggers might be sabotaging your health. Because every good investigation starts with gathering the evidence. Until next time, keep questioning, keep investigating, and remember, the truth about your health is out there. Let's find it together. This is Elizabeth Yarnell, your inflammation investigator. The investigation starts now. And that's another case filed on the inflammation investigator. Remember, you don't have to accept chronic inflammation as your life sentence. Every symptom is your body's way of communicating. We just need to learn its language. If today's episode sparked something for you, I want to hear about it. Share your own investigation discoveries with me on social media at Elizabeth Yarnell Naturopath, or email me directly through the show notes. Your experience could be exactly what another listener needs to hear. Want to dive deeper into your own inflammation investigation? Head over to inflammationinvestigator.com, where you can take my free inflammation quiz to uncover which hidden triggers might be affecting your health. You'll also find resources from today's episode and access to my Inflammation Academy, where we go beyond surface symptoms to discover real, lasting solutions. And here's the thing about investigations. They work best when you're not going it alone. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. And if this podcast is helping you uncover answers you've been searching for, please like, rate, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Sometimes the most important investigations start with a simple conversation. Until next time, keep investigating, keep questioning, and remember, your health is not a mystery that can't be solved. The clues are there. We just need to know where to look. This is Elizabeth Yarnell, your inflammation investigator, reminding you that the truth about your health is out there. Let's find it together.